Oh boy.
Probably be gone by then. But tomorrow you'll see us in the morning. Yeah. All right, take care.
All right. You're
Is she like? She cool?
Yeah, she's
Oh.
really cool. Long story.
Oh, okay.
She's got my back. She's kind of a big catalyst on why Sam wasn't hired and stuff like that.
Oh no.
Ooh.
And which is fine, but she had my back 100%. But it's not fine. But
Hey, we're live. Okay.
Yeah, we're live. We're live. No one heard anything you just said right there. Okay. Yeah.
I'm like,
32 seconds in.
I know.
All right. Ready to start the show?
Yes.
yeah, apparently.
Testing. Oh,
Here we go.
Now we're live.
Now we're live.
For
Ready?
real. Okay.
Set and. Welcome to Inside the 18. I'm Michael Magid, live from United Soccer Coaches Convention in lovely, balmy Kansas City, Missouri. It's got to be at least 10 degrees today. With me, as always, 99 World Cup winner, Saskia Weber. Can we announce it yet, or we can just say Las Vegas Lights goalkeeper coach?
Yeah, we can't.
Okay, we can't
say
say
too much more.
Man, we're getting a lot of
I don't
trouble.
want to jinx it yet.
Okay, we don't want to jinx it. Omar Zini, Pro GK Academy, Las Vegas Lights goalkeeper coach with other things to be determined.
Yes.
And joining us, honestly, she doesn't really need an introduction. Everyone out here probably knows who she is right here. We have the one and only Orlando Pride and Canadian women's national team goalkeeper, Erin McLeod. Erin, thanks for taking all this time. It's a little crazy time for you right now.
It is. There's a lot going on and off the field, but I'm very happy to be here. So thanks for having me.
Of course. I mean, one of the really cool things about having you on the show is that we actually got a sneak peek into the mindset of Erin McLeod when Lloyd Yaxley was on a few months ago, and we were trying to figure out a topic to have with Lloyd, and he's like, "Oh my God, Saskia doesn't want me to try to do accents. She's gonna freak
Oh,
out."
please.
Give it my best to do my Lloyd. All right, so yeah, I spoke to Aaron because I was trying to know what to say on the podcast. To be honest with you, so I figured I would ask her. That's how he talks. That's how Lloyd Yaxley talks. I'm trying to be like Lloyd. Oh boy, this is out to the world right now. But basically, he showed me some of the information that you gave, and I was like, wow, we need to have Erin on because this is talk about not just a soccer mind, but just a human mind in general. I mean, just is absolutely incredible. For some people out there who are not familiar with what you're doing right now, why don't you tell them a little bit about the Mindful Project?
Yeah, absolutely. So my co-founder, who's standing over there, Dr. Rachel Linval, and I, she has her doctorate in mindfulness research. Her and I, almost 3 years ago, created a program right now we're really promoting the high performance program, but we have a program starting for any young person from 4 years old to however old. We've paired a personal development course with mindfulness. And when I say personal development, a lot of us athletes and people in general are a bunch of perfectionists, right? And we're really hard on ourselves when we make mistakes. And there's a lot of incredible research out there that makes us better performers and the process a little more enjoyable because we don't actually have to be hard on ourselves because it slows down our learning process. So we go into a lot of those things, and it's had a huge impact on my life. Of course, I'm 38 years young. So when you kind of look back on your life and your career, you think, what if I knew this when I was 20? Like everybody says that, right? And so this is our effort to do that, to give this to young people when they are 18 and 19 and start that awareness process. We talk about like, when do you become aware? Like, when does that happen? And when you do become aware, you realize you have all these mental habits that actually work against you and they feel horrible. So how can you start reversing that, unlearning that, and replace it with habits that help you enjoy soccer more? And of course, sport is a vehicle for life. So how do you enjoy life more?
The craziest thing is I think the last 3 podcasts we've done have all been about sports psych. I feel like these are just like private sessions for us, and we need to like get your Venmo after this.
Yeah, of course.
I think real quick to that point, my sister lived in Thailand for a little bit, and she was telling me she went to a retreat, and one of the things was like conquering some of the experiences that you've had in your life, and then how those little ideas of the person you were at that moment compounded, and it really became your identity. Yes. And like you said, it's kind of like identifying and restructuring, like breaking it down, then restructuring it in a way that like you form a new identity, one that you choose versus one that you kind of just like unwillingly let it happen.
Right.
And so I think to this point, I think you're really, the tools are there, but making the players aware that those tools you can actually be reverse engineering and then structuring something that actually you control the narrative.
Absolutely.
Versus like, you know how we have coaches too. Coaches will have all these different things to implement, and that's the only voice you've ever heard.
Yeah.
So you grow up, and like we talk about it today on your panel of like a lot of the things that you coach is because I forgot her name, Amy.
We are live on Marzini.
Yeah,
you realize
Amy,
that, right?
Amy that you grew up watching and learning from, that became your identity as well. So it's like we can't really choose who we are exposed to at a young age.
Right.
But as you grow up, you can become aware of it and then start creating the environment you want.
Absolutely.
I mean, with Amy, it was like some of the stuff that, and I think it was even subconscious for me, like realizing I see it.
Okay.
Like,
We're very professional
I'm
here, Erin, as you
talking
can
to
tell.
I see.
but realizing that a lot of the things that Amy like believed in and teaches herself, like were ingrained in me without even realizing it, and that I've brought it into my coaching and into my philosophies, along with Blodge, along with Franz Hoek and stuff like that. But just like sitting next to her today and listening to her talk, and I'm like, this is where I get it from. This is where I learned it without even realizing it, and how I'm implementing the same mindsets and the same thoughts. And it was like kind of like a really cool epiphany and moment for me.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. I mean, I remember one of the most significant conversations I've had in my life. I'm sitting down with my sports psychologist, Alex Hodgins, and we're talking. I'm obsessed with art. When I'm not playing, I just love art, right? And he's asking me, like, how do you feel when you make a mistake in art? And this is like after 2008, I ripped up my knee and I was like relieved, all the pressure I'd put on myself, and I just went out of the game, right? So he asked me, well, how do you feel when you make a mistake in art? And I was like, what? Mistakes in art? Like, you don't make mistakes in art. You paint over it, you start again, you try a technique. Sometimes it's the most beautiful part of the piece. And he's smiling ear to ear, and I'm like, oh my God, like you can choose how you see mistakes. You can choose how you speak to yourself. We don't know what we don't know.
Wow, I'm going to steal that. So
I straight up
don't know. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, Erin. I was like literally looking at that. I was like, man, I was like, that is one of those things that I had never even thought about. And if we start looking at, because I think a lot of times when we look at something like goalkeeping, let's just use goalkeeping in general, we look at it linear, and we look at it as it's something that has an end point, a starting point, and an end point, and there's a right and the wrong. And what you're basically trying to say, like there, and this is something that people like Dan Abraham says, like it's a gray, and you say it all the time too.
Every podcast.
The gray area. The gray area. Yes. Okay. I'll give you the credit for that one. I'm sorry.
Well, so what are some of like the exercises that you guys have on the platform, or like?
Well, we have a lot. So we have mental training. We have a lot of mental training. And actually, a lot of it is catching yourself, drifting from the present moment. So performance anxiety, and anxiety is like the buzzword, right? Everybody has anxiety now. So like how do we deal with it? And what really is anxiety? And like I said, I was obsessed with mistakes, right? So I would make a mistake, and then I would think about that mistake. I would just dwell on it over and over and over. So my body's in the present moment, but I'm thinking about that past mistake. And then I'm like, oh my God, what if I make another mistake? So now my thoughts are in the future, worried about what I'm going to do. And as a result, I'm never here right now. My thoughts are not in the present moment. So for me, the starting point, I was talking with my sports psychologist, and he was like, I want you to breathe in for 3 seconds and exhale for 4. And then I'm like, okay, then what? And he's like, no, just that's it. And I'm like, okay. So then I'm like counting, and then the counting puts an interruption in the rumination, the busy mind. The longer out breath activates your parasympathetic nervous system. So all of a sudden you're more relaxed, you're calmer, you're making clearer decisions, and you're connecting with your body. And the one thing that's always in the present moment is your body. So of course I do it, and then 10 seconds later I'm like, there I'm
drifting off again,
right?
yeah.
And then I do it again, and then I catch myself over and over and over, and then it becomes this habit. So now if you see me playing and you see me, like, I'm counting, and I get nervous every game, but I'm okay because I know I've got my tool, and it's going to get me into the moment. And we as athletes, like, we live for the zone. That when everything slows down, we're in that moment. That's the present moment. That is like the gold in mindfulness. So practicing that in life, in everything that you do, then you step on the field and it's just like everything else.
I love that.
I have a question just in regards to like what you were talking about in regards to the breathing and everything like that. I've tried meditation before, and I was a disaster, absolute complete disaster with it. I'm literally like, I'm so bored. I can't do this. How much longer do I have to do this?
Right.
Like, so for somebody who's got that mental block, like how do I get past that?
Right. So I think when I was the same, right? I started for a while and I'm like, man, this meditation is like, why do people want to do this?
Okay. So it's not just me. Okay.
No,
Thank you.
It's not just you. And I'm a co-founder of a Mindful Project. So don't worry.
Okay.
It gets better. I think people get caught up with like the idea of thinking about nothing. Our brains are wired to think. Like that's what they should be doing. So for me, instead of focusing on thinking about nothing, what I'm trying to focus on is when a thought enters my mind, and like, when you're just sitting on the side of the road and you're watching traffic go back and forth, there's a moment where you start observing your thoughts and there's that like little bit of separation where you're just like, they're just going, they're just flowing, and that is for me anyway, kind of the purpose. You're like an observer, or a lot of times in meditation they say the watcher, and you're just observing these thoughts. They're not right or wrong like our brains. I call them the meaning maker. Like a lot of things are just what they are, and we make them mean something. So if you can start detaching and observing your thoughts, you can do that with so many other things.
Yeah, I mean, you can't look at it, Mike, like okay, I'm doing meditation because it's going to get me to here. And when I'm at here, where am I and what is it?
See, I think that's how I was looking for the end result.
You can't look at it for an end result.
Okay.
You have to look at it as a Zen place and a detachment for no result. And I think you're so used to, as a goalkeeper, searching for, okay, I'm doing this training session. I'm doing these repetitions for this end result. And it's this whole opposite. Like you can't meditate to say, okay, how am I going to feel when I'm done? Yeah. You see what I'm saying? You have to allow yourself to detach.
Yeah. Okay. No, I mean, I think
it's like when I'm listening to Omar talk for like 5 minutes. And
hold on.
You're like, just focus on my breathing.
So after we came.
Every minute give me a nod, so I'm like, all right, at least I'm getting feedback.
So this morning, Erin, actually, we had a podcast with Dan Abrahams, and it was right after Saskia had been on panel with Jill Lloyden and Amy Griffin, and Lisa Cole was obviously running it, and Ali Lipscher, and they were one of the things that was being brought up, and again, I don't want to make this the same episode that we just did earlier this morning, but some things were brought up that I didn't recognize as a male coach that other people in the room did recognize. And so it started becoming this whole session in regards to like mindset and like what we're taught, what we're learned, what subconsciously we know, and everything like that. And I just have a question in regards to just like, does your environment really trigger like how you think, or are you born thinking a certain way? And like, how does that work?
Well,
I know I'm making it profound. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's deep. I mean, I think it's a combination of everything, I don't think my upbringing was that different from my sisters. I remember being like pissed, however, that I was born a girl, because when I was young, all the boys were playing hockey and all the boys were doing fun things. And I was like playing Foursquare, when the whole point wasn't to win. And I was like, I don't want to. Is this what a girl is? Like, I don't want to be a girl.
Wait, hold on. There was no point in win. I tried to win Foursquare. You moved up in the letters.
It can be very competitive, but they were just, anyway, maybe it was just this group of gals. Yeah. So yes, gender, I think, and gender identity plays a big role in our upbringing, whether we believe that or not. And now we're going through an incredible time right now where for the first time, we're looking at this world where it's not just boys and girls. We've got this middle space where we're like, oh, not everything has to be binary. And I think that will have a huge impact on sport, because the other day I almost fell off my chair. This 8-year-old was like, I am made fun of because I play sports as a girl. And I was like, what? Where are you living? And I was so upset. But at the same time, I was happy that was so foreign because you're not hearing that as much anymore. So my parents treated me the same as my sisters. Our drive was, and they won't hate me for saying this, my drive was just different. And my role models growing up were all guys, because there was only guys doing professional sports. So now I think we're in an age where I hope that shifts, and it's not just it's not just the boys playing sports anymore and running like a girl. Like some girls are confused by that statement, and they should be.
Yeah, no, I think I've come across people who are, very much mature for their age, in the sense of like when they're exposed to something new, let's say for example, an awareness of being in control of your thought processes and like being in control of, breathing and doing all those things where you can reset, whether it's a mistake in a game or a high pressure moment where you have the breathing techniques to reset. You can tell Mike that, you can tell me, but there are certain people in terms of their maturity level where like they can grab that information and they can progress and make it, make strides quicker. And so for you guys on the app, is there just kind of like, we'll meet you where you are, and then as you take the information in, like, keep on trying new things. But if you progress, is there like more progression for people who are faster?
Yeah, well, so the way that we are doing it, so you can find us online, themindfulproject.us, and we have curriculums specifically for high performing athletes. We have a curriculum for adults. We have a curriculum for kids. And then we have a kind of a next steps program that now we have created for high performance athletes, because basically our initial intent was to kind of go through this process, and most of the time it's teams. So on the one side, like maybe some people have already invested a lot in mindfulness and self-awareness, but when you are in a team and you're starting to talk about tone, like awareness of your tone and body language, it becomes relevant to do it as a team. You know what I mean? So we have, again, the personal development side. It's a 12 chapter curriculum. We just throw as many different mindfulness techniques. We've got mindful coloring in there. We've got mindful mobility. We've got meditations. We've got the works. And the intention is the next steps program is you create your own, because you might love mindful coloring and you might think it's horrible, right? So it's about catering to what makes you the best version of yourself, because that's the ultimate goal.
Go ahead.
I just keep coming back to my polar plunge. I have to bring that up. Okay.
Oh, is this when you did this on New Year's?
Yeah, no, when I was in Catalina over New Year's. No, but
it wasn't Maine. This was Catalina Island.
I get it. I didn't have to break ice. It was still cold. Okay, and it wasn't a plunge. I had to swim to a buoy, so it was cold.
You swam to a brewery?
A buoy.
Okay, I was
swim
like,
to a brewery. I would buy that one too.
More exciting
afterwards.
Okay.
So, but in the mindfulness, like it really was incredibly cold, and being a competitive swimmer and stuff, I was like, I got this, everything's gonna be fine. Right. And feeling my body shut down, and feeling my chest shut down, and feeling my stress level come in, and feeling my anxiety come in, and being out there, like, first of all, what the hell am I doing? Second of all, I'm like, how do I control this? How do I control myself? And like I can only control my body. It's in this space right now. I'm not going to flip out. I'm not going to do anything, but how can I get control of this? And I flipped over on my back, and I just was just like, take your breaths, like breathe, like close your mind, and like find yourself again. This isn't a competition. Right. I don't have to swim back really fast, but what I do have to do is get control of this, because I'm panicking right now, because I felt my chest constricting because it was so cold. Yeah. I don't care. It wasn't Maine, but it was still cold. And I had to control that, and to be able to have the tools to do that as an athlete was huge to me. And to be able to say, wait, what am I doing? Calm the breathing down, calm everything down, calm the anxiety down, find yourself again, figure out a way through this. And it's true. And so I know, and I bring myself back to that, because that's what I think about. I do it, whether it's in goalkeeping or whatever it is, like you have to find that center and find your way to get there. And so that's what it reminds me of, because I haven't been in that position in a long time.
But let's also say the mind is so incredibly powerful when you're able to use it like in the way that you want, right? Because otherwise our mind just kind of runs the show, our emotions take off. But I mean, one of the things we do right at the beginning of the program is a body scan, and we go through like intense, like horrible situations, or like great, feeling awesome situations, and then you literally just go through and notice areas of tension in your body. And now, like, what I love is I've done a lot of this over and over and over, and when I know my anxiety is getting out of control, like your body processes like 11 million bits of information a second, so your body knows things before your mind has had a moment to process stuff, right? So like when I feel like I have spiders crawling on my chest, my anxiety is starting to get out of control. Or when I'm like, my neck is so tight I can't move, I'm nervous normally about an outcome. And your body is telling you things all the time. And really, when you become really in tune with that, you take 1 or 2 breaths, and you can like kind of stop the disaster before it starts. And
it's true, because to be honest with you, it was literally like, I'm not going to drown, but it was literally like, I've never had this panic before. Like I said, I was a competitive swimmer. Like this was not a big deal to me, but I had never dealt with what my body was going through physically with the cold water and everything. And then it was my mind. And it was like, how do I control this? And it became through breaths. It became through slowing down and everything. But I was really psyched I had that ability, because I think that had I not had my career and had everything we've gone through, I don't know if it was somebody else, I might have been swimming out saving somebody else's life, because I've been panicking. And that's true. Like it was that much of a situation where I was like, I can't breathe. Like, okay, but I can. Like, so stop. So
this was kind of like me earlier, actually, when I was trying to set everything up because Erin was coming. And I was freaking out because we only had so much time. And then this guy was the guy came by and he's like, told me a little bit about this app. I'm like, Erin McLeod's coming any second here. Right here. I don't want to make sure everything's set up like it's a new platform with. Oh my God, you know.
Like
Oh, you just said it on the air.
I know, I sold him out.
Just real quick, I think again, to bring it back to like the swimming part is great story. I love it. I'm going to bring it back to goalkeeping for a second. I'm sorry.
Come on, give me a break.
No, but I did a self-reflection as I got older, but I think when I was younger too, pre-game, I did whatever I could to make sure I didn't play. I would forget my shoes on purpose.
What?
Yeah, no, this is when I was like 12 or 13. And I was a little bit taller than everybody, so then people assumed because of my height that I could play for better teams. Right. So they would take me from like the bronze level. They brought me to Sharif like at the gold level, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we'll just throw you into the Surf Cup." And I was like, "Do you understand?" Because I was reading like the directories, and I always knew which teams were the best teams because I was just. But
you were not good. You were not good.
Not yet.
Okay.
But I would be like, okay, I'm gonna forget my shoes on purpose. Like, understand the process of being 12 years old and like literally go, "Are you guys ready to go?" And me throwing my shoes like to the side. Wow. And multiple times you'd get to the field, and then like I put it on a podcast before, but like my buddy's uncle who used to drive him to games always had the same size shoe as me, and he would finish his men's league, and then he'd bring them. So I'm okay. This guy, I got to figure out a different way. But then I remember like you said, being in tune. I didn't understand or comprehend at that age what was going on inside my body internally. I didn't understand it. You just kind of go push that away. Like, what is this weird feeling? And then the games would start. And at halftime, I'd look back and I'd be like, okay, so 5 minutes in or like 2 minutes in, I have no recollection of being nervous anymore. So all I have to do, and again, I don't know if this is like something called in like psychology books or something, but it's like you almost create a script and then you try to like stick to that script, and then you're familiar with that. And then you become familiar with that until a new variable comes in, then you create a new one. So then I would say, okay, all I got to do is make sure that I stay like composed, breathe, and then by the time the game starts, no nerves anymore. And then I was like, oh, thank God, this is amazing. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, crap. They got, like the COVID variants, they get smarter. So my mind got smarter, and it was like, oh, okay, so you think 5 minutes and you're chilling? No. Let's go 20 minutes and let's see what happens. So then little by little, you start processing more and more information. So I think when I was younger, I was exposed to that a lot more and like was very in tune with myself. So as I've gotten older, I tried to use that same concept with the goalkeepers that I train of like, how are you in the like pregame? How do you feel? Like, oh, I'm so nervous. And I'm like, tell me why. So you can talk about your guys' platform. It's like exposing these people and creating awareness. And then obviously everyone will find it at different points. But as soon as you implant those little things, they go, oh my God, someone else has experienced this. And it's not just me. End scene.
Yeah, well, I think for me, did you have a ritual? Like for me, I had a ritual. Like, and people are like, okay, if you want a superstition, I really don't. I really wouldn't say it was superstition, but we can, But it was like this thing before every game. It was just everything, checks and balances, and it's subconscious. But I had to do this way, this way, and it was just a way of calming myself and focusing. And I know that now, and back then you could say, well, it's my superstition. Like these are all my little superstitions. But the truth was, it was my ritual to make myself focus, breathe, and understand I was getting myself ready to play and in a game. And they were some of the dumbest things ever, and that they'll be private to me, but they were my way of calming myself and my way of breathing and being prepared. I would not leave my gloves or cleats somewhere to avoid the game. It's a new one, but Yeah.
No, I mean, and for me, like just the whole avoidance thing, I'm sure you're familiar with fixed mindset. I had a fixed mindset, and anytime you make a mistake, you're like, oh no, you're not as talented as everyone thought you were, So avoidance is like very, very, very normal for like a fixed mindset. But And I think, to your point earlier, like, I'm not a Nike person. I'm very much a Puma person, but like, just do it is the best tagline in the world, because honestly, when you just start doing it, whatever it is, it's not as bad as you have made it out in your mind. Right. And for me, like, oh, he's got a point on that.
No.
Remember, I'm a Puma.
Give me the mic. Grab the microphone really quick.
As far as pregame rituals, like, I've always been such a nervous goalkeeper. I'd be like shaking like a leaf. And for me, what shifted, the hugest shift I've had, and a significant one, is when I started to realize that what matters is your relationship with stress and those nerves. Yes. You have two very different physiological responses. If you think, oh, like, I'm not ready, this is not good enough, your like veins and arteries constrict, and it limits the blood flow to your muscles, to your brain. So you're not thinking clearly, you're not, reacting as well physically. But if you believe it's good, like, everything functions the same. Yeah, you feel like you've got killer moths in your belly, but you can perform in a way that you want to perform. And as soon as I recognized that, and like, a TED Talk came out like 10 years later, Kelly McGonigal, make stress your friends. And I was like, oh my God, that's what I figured out 10 years ago, and it changed everything. So for me, I was like, I had like Bob Marley on, I had like whatever relaxing song I could put on, and I would just be like chill. The nerves would be all day, and I just knew it was part of the process.
Yeah. And you knew that I'm feeling these nerves, so that it does mean I'm tuned in.
Yes.
And like, I would change that in my mind. It means like, I would worry if like I wasn't nervous, and I'd be like, am I not focused today? Like, I should be nervous. I should have the knots in my stomach. I should be going through my rituals. And the fact I'm not means I'm not ready. Like, and like, if you can spin that in your mind, you can change that and take control of the fear, take control of the nervousness.
Totally.
So right now, I'm actually going to embrace the fact that I forgot a fourth microphone and that we've been having to share 3 microphones during all these podcasts. I mean, I'm joking here, but honestly, it is something that's been an issue with me in the past, and it still is to this day, is not embracing and identifying the emotional situation that I'm in and trying to go against it. And it sounds like what you're trying to say is that you need to embrace how you feel right now, because that is the moment that you're in right now, and accept it.
Yeah, and I think we're like trained as a society to like put your emotions in a box and like throw them down the street, And mindfulness, one thing that I appreciate about it is you sit with what you're feeling, and that takes courage and strength and an incredible amount of vulnerability to sit with that feeling. But that, I think, it's such a self-loving process, that you're doing it because you want to heal and become more.
Yes.
I admire that process, and it's a tough one.
I think as I gotten older, and I think for me,
How old are you?
29.
Okay.
I wish,
right.
yeah.
You just keep saying that, and I'm like, all right, go on.
But I think
no, I'm just messing with it. You're all making fun of each other.
No, it's okay. No.
Oh my God, please just keep
Trust me,
keep going at it.
Anyway.
I think I won't make anything political, but like as I've gotten older, like the political landscape, I'm recognizing from what I've seen and like the propaganda and everything, everyone the information that you're being fed, they all have a motive, right? And the motive is to get you to vote for them, or the motive is to do whatever it is. So then you start recognizing, peel that layer back even more. Society, talking about societal norms. Why aren't women coaching in more men? Or why aren't we see like head coaches in the men's game that are women? So it's like the societal constructs, it's all being fed to you. Another one is how you're supposed to externally feel and show your emotions. Yeah. So if you're put into a box since you were a kid and that's all you know, hopefully you have the privilege enough and time in the situation you are in life to recognize, oh, wow. So I've been put into this box, and what you're saying right now is like, I can actually become in tune with my emotions. I can be aware of that, and I can actually understand. Like today, I rose my hand in the panel, and they asked, I was going to ask a question, and the minute leading up to me asking the question, my heart, I don't know why, was pounding as hard as I've ever felt. It was like, do, do, do. And I'm on podcasts all the time. I have a YouTube channel, so I'm fine with that. For some reason, my heart was thumping. But then again, as I got older, while I'm in this age, 29, I go
good, yeah, looking good and young, yeah.
The hair, both of our hair looks good, if I may add.
Is it the lighting? Anyway,
it could be. But I think
what products are you using?
Natural. I felt like I was losing a little hair with my eyes. I felt like it, so I was like, no more hairspray, no more gel. But to end what I'm trying to say, is that like, when you get to a point in your life where you become aware of those things, you start recognizing that like how much more control that you personally have, and you can deconstruct all the narratives and things that have been sold to you as this is how you're supposed to think. And then now, again, with the privilege of like my family, like stability and all that stuff, I can kind of go, I can worry about myself now a little bit more and tend to my needs. And then hopefully, again, as coaches, how we've built ourselves back up after deconstructing, can we not deconstruct kids, but like make them aware that this is a possibility that they can take ownership of?
Well, and I think the best coaches I've ever had, well said, and great hair.
I just want to remember my answer.
I'll feel it after that. But the best coaches I've ever had have questioned the way that I think. And I think that's the best, have questioned the way that I think. And I think that is the best service you can do to your athletes, is question how they think, because then they start to think for themselves and question everything, you know. And I'm in this place in my life finally where I'm like, I don't care what people think about me. I'm questioning everything. And I feel this is the most alive I've ever felt my whole life, because I realize I can be whatever I want. I can identify however I want. I can love whoever I want. And the only person that's going to judge me at the end of the day is me.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
I have a question for you, Erin, because I think, you know, one of the
I'm out. Mic drop. Okay, cut.
is it okay if I ask my question?
Yeah, you can ask your question.
What hair product are you using?
Okay. Well, actually, so guys.
Oh no, Mike, put it back on.
Yeah. Actually, I have my hair product back there. Actually, no, I'm using that stuff right over there, back there. I've been doing my hair every night, just to let you know. When we go out, I've been using my, instead of wearing a hat, where I wear.
You have, I noticed.
I have. I actually been putting that effort into it. I get a really nice haircut now. There's a really great guy in Southern. No, okay. Anyway, Erin.
Yes.
I think one of the issues I think I see when it comes to self-awareness is, how do you know that you're truly being self-aware and not being delusional?
I love this. Yeah. So one of the exercises.
I love it.
I was hoping you would ask that. No.
Yes. Awesome. Because it was in the rundown.
One of our exercises in the Mindful Project, we literally say, okay, so you're going to do this exercise with someone, and you are going to ask them how you come across, like your demeanor, your tone, everything, and then before that, you write down how you perceive yourself. And then you're gonna, and you know, you don't go with your best friend on the team, because your friends always tell you what you want to hear. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So you ask someone that, not that maybe you don't like, but just someone, you know, and you go through it and you compare, and it's crazy sometimes, because sometimes you think you're like super approachable and friendly and this, and then people are like totally unapproachable, doesn't take feedback well, and you're like, oh, okay. So, but I think your peers help, and that's why it's a cool thing to do it with your teammates.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a great connection, like a great connector, to be honest, because if you can receive honest feedback, be true and intentional what you can, you know, do with your teammates, that trust, that foundation, then you can do anything. And you can be like, that wasn't good enough, and they're not going to be like, oh, Erin doesn't like me.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that just wasn't good enough. And you can say what you mean, and you can't always do that in a lot of environments.
It's funny that you say that, though, because like I'm just thinking about sometimes, like when you're talking about, like, you know, putting IDPs together for getting back into the weeds of goalkeeping or whatever, for youth goalkeepers, a lot of times, you know, you'll say at the beginning of the season, it's like, you know, tell us what you think of yourself as a goalkeeper. A lot of times, like, great communicator, can like handle crosses, like exceptional and blah blah blah, or whatever type of thing. And usually a lot of the times it's because that's what they want. That's what they want to be, and so they're trying to convince themselves that that's what they are.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, and what I learned a lot from Ashlyn Harris this season is, you know, she'd always harp on like, be the keeper that you want to be the keeper that you want to be. And I think a lot of times what we end up doing when I was young anyway, I looked at a lot of keepers and I was like, oh, I want to be like that. But realistically, you know, if I'm looking at a Schmeichel, I probably don't have the same characteristics as that guy. You know what I mean? And as much as I'd love to, you know, so it's about appreciating certain things in keeper's game, and then also recognizing, like, you know, having a very honest conversation with, like, what if you're slow? What if you can't jump that high? And that doesn't mean it's the end of your career. It just means you're going to have to think of things differently.
Yeah. I used to have this thing happen. I mean, now it's becoming a therapy session for me, but I used to have these, a lot of panic attacks when I was in high pressure situations as a youth player.
Okay.
And I would, and a lot of times, I don't know if it was, but is there a difference between anxiety and like fear, or is it like kind of the same type of thing?
Well, I think thinking about the future and past is what I said is kind of like when you're outside of the moment, but I definitely think it is related. Because in general, if you're like, oh, we're going to go and like get candy and like, dance under rainbows, like I feel like it wouldn't make you feel, you know what I mean? So generally,
actually sounds delightful.
It does. I will be doing that after this podcast, but I definitely think there's the fear factor there, and one thing Rachel and I talk about all the time is a motto that I always come back to is love and abundance. And we're in a world where we're always comparing ourselves and like, what do they have that I don't have, and this and that, and there's enough love to go around. You know what I mean? So I think, and we're programmed to be afraid, right? We're built to survive. So we see anyone around the corner, and historically we're like, oh, they could kill me. You know what I mean? But we're just in a different time. So I think it's about recognizing if your first reaction is fear, that's okay. This is where the mindfulness comes in. You go towards that. You kind of say, okay, now be in the moment. And, most suffering isn't right here, right now.
Wow. That's deep right there. No, I'm just trying to take that.
Just listening.
No, I'm just trying to take that in. I think. Oh, wait, Wilmer, do you have something to say?
No, I just. I think something you said earlier too that's really, really important. I think is the relationship you have with those triggers that make you feel those butterflies or make you feel anxiety. Yeah. And I think, again, being aware of those things, but like the relationship is just like you meet it where it is, and you try to unwind it and just say like, when I was younger, for example, like my dad was very strict on me, and like he would make me super nervous to do certain things. And then as I grew up, I was like, oh man, I'm a little bit insecure about those things. And then as I got older, I was like, that came from my dad. Yeah. Okay, where was my dad in his life? And so he was trying to raise a kid. He was trying to develop discipline. So that had nothing to do with me. It was more so like his like, I'm trying to develop my son in a way that I was raised. So then you start like peeling back those layers, and you kind of go, oh my God, I can make peace with, like, I'm not insecure because of me. Like, that's just how it was developed, and that's how I perceive the world. So I think that's just, again, that was your relationship with those things and understanding kind of where they came from, and then now making peace with it and realizing that it's not your identity. It just may have been somebody else who is projecting something.
Right. And that's part of the awareness part, right? When you start...
I'm back.
Okay.
No, it's just when you can start putting yourself in other people's shoes, including your parents, or whoever helped raise you or was around you. And I think that for me is it's really relevant right now. We have so many issues with gender and race, and we could go down it. And really what it comes down to is trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes. And I think empathy. And we've lost a lot of that. And we are seeing like horrible things, and we're just scrolling through the next thing. And so I think that is one of the most important things that I've learned through self-awareness is to be able to do that. And also we're so critical, and we first, I think, have to start with ourselves. Like that's where the relationship has to change, that self-compassion bit, and then also like of others, and why are we judging others? Most of the time it has to do with something that's going on within ourselves.
I mean, one thing I've noticed, and even just being at these coaching courses here, and I'm not trying to, be derogatory towards anybody here in the crowd or whatever type of thing, but at convention, as you'll see at these presentations, the crowd at the presentations,
but specifically those people over there,
specifically all those people right over there, just you guys right there. Is that you'll see the coaches that are basically just trying to explain why this presentation is wrong, why they would do something differently, as opposed to trying to be open-minded and listen type of a thing. And I feel like I used to be like that. And I feel like the second that I started recognizing the fact that like, you can learn from anybody, you can learn from any moment type of thing, and being a little more self-aware that I don't know everything. I felt I started growing more as a human being, and I started recognizing that people started taking me differently than maybe they had in the past. So.
Yeah, I think ego gets in the way of everything. To be honest, it's something. Your ego is not in the moment; it's on your past accomplishments. And I think what it does is it stops you from learning. Like I was told to have a beginner's mind 20 years ago, and I'm 38 years old. And when a new keeper comes in, I know that because of their age and who they are and what they're seeing on TV and the game that they're watching, that they know stuff that I don't know. I know that, and that's what's going to keep me relevant in the game.
Yeah. What's when you're talking about fear, Mike, like, and anxiety, Like it's what it, I think somebody said to me once, it was really funny because I used to have massive anxiety about going to national team camp and doing fitness. Like we'll do fitness, right? Because I had to do field player fitness and we were goalkeepers.
Oof.
And it's like, I got to run cones or whatever. And Michelle Akers used to laugh at me because I used to pass it with frying cones, but I was like giving myself like panic attacks going into it. But I'd always pass it. Yeah, I'd always pass it. But it was like the stress I put on myself and the fear of failure or whatever. But somebody said to me once, and they go, and I would tell that story, and they'd be like, "So what happened if you didn't pass it?" And I go, "Did you ever not pass it?" I go, "Yeah, I think I didn't pass it once. So what happened?" And I was like, "Well, nothing." And they're like, "What?" I was like, "Nothing." They're like, "Well, what do you mean?" I go, "Well, nothing." I'm like, "Did you get punished? Like, did you get sent home?" No. And they're like, "Oh, that's interesting." And I was like, "Damn it, I never thought about it that way." Like all these years, I had so much anxiety, and I was so like focused on the anxiety, and I have to be fit, which the anxiety could take over in the fitness session itself and tighten me up. But there was no repercussions from it. It was all in my mind. And it was all something that was created superficially to cause me this anxiety, to make me be fit. And I was like, wait a minute. I never got punished for not passing.
They're not going to slap you on the wrist? Like, I know.
You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
And I was like, damn it.
I know. I had the same fear. I mean, and the same thing happened. So during when the COVID pandemic first came on, like we were supposed to play in the Challenge Cup that Orlando half the team got sick, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I went and played in Iceland just because I wanted to experience. My partner's Icelandic, so I was like, let's see what I can make out of this trip, right? So I ended up playing in Iceland for a little while, and the coach had the best. We were like just above relegation, right? Which is perfect for a goalkeeper because
you're getting a lot of action.
Getting a lot of work.
You're busy, right? And so we lost another game, and the pressure, you could just tell the pressure on the team, and he's just like, well, what would happen if we lost and got relegated? And everyone's like, well, we wouldn't be in the top division. And he was like, and then what would happen? And people were like, I'd show up to train every day like I normally do. And it was exactly the same. He was like, it's not the worst thing in the world. So like get out of your head and just get in the moment.
And I think for a long time coaches coached off fear, like coached off that base, and like nothing against, I love Anson and stuff like that. But, it was that intensity back in the day coming into national team and coming into everything that, I was running fitness more than I by myself more than I was ever training goalkeeping because I was like, I got to pass this fitness test. Like, I mean, I have to like but then coming to that realization that like nothing's ever happened to me, like whether I passed it or not. Hey, you passed it. Great. Now on to practice. And one time I didn't pass it. Nothing happened. Still got on the plane, still went to Portugal. So it was like, where is this anxiety coming from? What am I doing to myself? Like if I can just harness that, it doesn't mean I don't want you to. Maybe the anxiety caused me to train harder, but there's got to be other ways to deal with it, in my opinion. You don't want to coach out of fear. You don't want to instill fear in your players that there's some grandiose punishment. But how can we harness that energy, that anxiety, and turn it into something positive?
Well, and there's a statistic that's unbelievable. It's like something like 85% of the things that we worry about happening, like never end up happening. And it's like, wow. And it's that high.
Like your stress, like even your stress over the microphone, Mike.
No, yeah, no.
Like who cares?
Yeah.
Like you're like, I can't believe I didn't bring a fourth microphone. I'm
but by this point, it's shtick, to be honest with you.
We're having a great time with it, and nobody probably cared until you brought it up.
And probably no one noticed until I brought it up.
Right,
Exactly.
but you're so worried about it.
Mm-hmm. No, you're absolutely correct. And then kind of like, on the counterpoint, like if you don't know something, sometimes that ignorance is bliss type of a thing. Like I'll give an example. Like I had a preconceived notion about ODP, back when, Omar, when I was younger, there was this thing called Olympic Development Program.
I was an ODP.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were. I thought there was already the DA and all that.
No, I did like 3 years of ODP then Academy.
Oh, okay. So anyway, I got so freaked out about ODP and making the state team and all that sort of thing. But when I got called in to play for Venezuela for the youth national team program, I didn't think anything of it or whatever because I didn't know anything about it. And so I didn't know what the level was going to be. I didn't know how good they were going to be or anything like that. But I had this preconceived notion that ODP meant so much and that these were the best players in the world. And so guess what? I went down to Venezuela and I made that team down there. And because I didn't think anything of it. And because of that, I was just kind of playing my game. So can it work like the counter way too? Like where if you don't know something, you're more relaxed? Like,
yeah. I mean, ignorance is bliss. I mean, at the end of the day, it can be, right?
Was that a rhetorical question? Did I do another rhetorical question?
No,
To a point.
I mean,
Okay.
really, at the end of the day, if you can be in the moment and just not worry about any scenario, it helps you. And maybe that's what you were doing. Maybe you weren't like you were mentioning before. Like, what if you didn't make that team?
Well,
it
I think
wouldn't
it's 'cause
affect you. You could show up at home and no one would be embarrassed.
I also knew all those kids. I didn't know any of the people in Venezuela.
Right.
But in that
So
contract,
it's your reputation.
Yeah.
And
how many teams did I not make for trips for the U.S. because I was number 2 behind Bri for 10 years? That I didn't go to Brazil, I didn't go to China, but I did go to all the other important tournaments.
Yeah.
Like, but in that moment, like it was destroyed me. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, what am I gonna do? But in the reality of it, like, wait a minute. Did that make a difference on me making the World Cup team? It didn't, and did I find something in that rejection to push me through to the next thing? I did. Instead of being bogged down in the negativity of it, I was like, well, how do I get better?
I like how Omar and I can compare state ODP to you guys winning gold medals and things like that.
yeah, but it's your personal experience.
I know the Canadian national anthem. I perform everything. Kelly Parker's amazing. I mean, like, give me a break.
I have a question because this is something I was just thinking about. Is that when I was younger, they always wanted me to go on different medications to kind of suppress my emotional state. We're learning a lot about me today. We're learning a lot about me. Yeah, it's a very open podcast.
We're getting real.
You're just now you're just watching my stand up. Honestly, this is what I talk about. I'm just neurotic on my stand up. But do you feel like there's too much of an emphasis on people going that route with medication before trying to find other ways to handle their emotions, to handle their situations and live life?
I mean, I always think that, you've got to trust medical professionals. Okay. And I think there's that. Do I think that you can find more peace and joy and fulfillment in your life just by working on the mental side of things? Absolutely. And that would probably have a positive effect on anxiety and other things. But yeah, I think definitely always with a medical professional. I would never want to replace that. But I think at the end of the day, mindfulness is for everyone. It's not just for the people who have anxiety. Because like 10 years ago, I didn't think I had anxiety, and then I was like, oh, this is what I'm fighting, and so I just think for me, I started down this path because I wanted to be more consistent and I wanted to enjoy the game more. And that's why I, really got involved. And as a consequence, my anxiety is way better, and like all these other things have kind of happened because of that.
Yeah. Is it okay if I ask another question, or did somebody have something? Okay.
I have to go.
Oh no, trust me.
Yeah.
Trust me. We're going to start.
That?
Yeah, I did, but I want to reiterate that, and I'm going to be really extra. There is no way, shape, or form in this podcast that we are telling people whether to go on medication or not to go off medication, and you have to go to the professionals for that, because there are people that definitely need to be on it and stuff like that. We can get into logistics of overprescription, but that is not our place.
Oh, of course,
at all.
No, of course.
Yeah. So it's not.
Of course, I was asking more for me.
I am.
No. So
I want to make that clear because it's important.
I mean, absolutely. I think one of the things is I think parents out there are always trying to find solutions to try to help their kids, and so that's what I was trying to get at, because
there are definite health.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There are definitely like health benefits to doing mindfulness, but yes, of course, never replace medication.
Final thing while we're wrapping this up right here, Erin, just kind of as we're doing this here, like, if there's any parents out there, if you could give them kind of any advice with a kid who is having difficulty dealing with their emotions and finding their center and all that sort of thing, and like because you always say about being in the zone is being comfortable and being at peace with who you are, like what would you say to them?
Yeah, so I was during lockdown, I was with my parents, and I watched my dad talk to himself after making a mistake in the harshest way possible. And in that moment, I realized like where I got a lot of it.
Right.
And if I can give advice to parents about helping their kids, I would suggest starting to invest in yourself, in mindfulness, in the self-compassion, because kids are so smart and they watch you. They're paying attention. If you make a mistake and you're like, okay, I tried my best, and you show that self-love, like they see that. And I think that's the best thing that you could probably do for your kids. Not being a parent myself. So
Cool.
that's great advice. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think honestly, I think that's a great way to wrap this up. Erin, if people want to check out the Mindful Project, where's the best place for them to connect with you?
Check out our website, themindfulproject.us. You can find us on Instagram _Mindful Project. Is that right? _ Mindful Project. There it is. But yeah, we're online. You can email me directly, Erin at themindfulproject.us, or my business partner who has her doctorate in mindfulness research, Rachel at themindfulproject.us.
Awesome, guys. And if you have a guest suggestion or a topic suggestion, contact at inside the18media.com. That's the number 18, or at Goalkeeper Podcast on all social media platforms. Shout out to everybody who's been posting on the Union Sports, on the goalkeeping community for the Union Sports app, guys. It is free. Make sure that you're checking it out. Make sure that you're starting those conversations. It's a place where everyone should feel comfortable saying whatever they want, posting whatever they want. That's all the time on Inside the 18. Oh, Omar Zini, of course, at ProGK Academy _ Saskia Weber at Saskia _Weber. We're going to be here at KC Convention, still doing podcasts tomorrow. Check us out on Podcast Row. That's it. We are out. Later, guys.
Thank you.